Hey everyone, welcome back to our very important podcast. I am Adam, and I'm joined today by the incredible Sophia. Now, whether you're driving, working out, or just chilling at home, we're so excited to have you with us for today's episode. We're diving into a topic that's on everyone's mind at the start of the year, New Year's resolutions. And let's be real, we've all made them at some point, right? But how often do they actually stick?
Exactly. The new year brings that fresh, optimistic energy, and we start thinking about what we want to accomplish. But setting resolutions that we can actually achieve, now that's a whole different ballgame. Today we're going to break down the steps to setting realistic and achievable goals. So this year, you'll feel proud of your progress come December.
That's right. We're not just talking about vague resolutions like, I want to get fit, or I want to read more books. No. We're going deeper than that. By the end of today's episode, you'll have a concrete strategy to turn those lofty goals into something tangible.
And we're going to share some of our own experiences, real-life success stories, and actionable tips that will help you stay on track throughout the year. So if you've ever struggled with keeping those New Year's resolutions alive, this episode is for you.
Exactly. No more broken promises to yourself. It's time to make this year different, and we're here to guide you every step of the way. So let's jump right into it.
Grab a notebook, get comfy, and let's set you up for a year full of success, growth, and meaningful achievements. Ready? Let's go. All right, so let's kick things off by addressing something that we've all experienced. Why do so many of our New Year's resolutions fail? Every year we make these bold promises to ourselves. We set these goals with a sense of excitement and motivation, and then, just like that, they seem to slip away. By mid-February, we're already off track, and by summer, the goal we were so passionate about has completely faded from our minds. It's frustrating, right? I mean, we've all been there. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself why that happens?
Yeah, that's the question we really need to dig into. I think one of the biggest reasons resolutions fail is because we set goals that are just too big right out of the gate. Let's take something like, I want to get fit. Okay, that's a great goal, but what does it actually mean? Does it mean working out every day for an hour? Does it mean cutting out junk food completely? The problem is, we often set these grand goals without really thinking about how to break them down into smaller, actionable steps. And when we don't see the progress we expect immediately, that's when we start to feel discouraged and defeated.
Exactly. We get caught up in the excitement of the new year and, without realizing it, we create a huge mountain to climb. It's like we're setting ourselves up for failure before we even start. And you mentioned something super important: lack of clarity. Think about it. If we say, I'm going to read more books this year, we think that's a solid goal, right? But what does that mean? Are we going to read one book per month? Are we going to read 50 books this year? The problem is, without specifics, it's really hard to measure progress. And when we can't track our progress, it's easy to lose motivation.
Yes. And that's exactly what happens. Without clarity, the goal becomes this vague, distant thing that feels hard to achieve. And here's where the problem gets worse. We get discouraged when things don't go perfectly. A lot of people don't realize this, but the number one reason resolutions fail is because we expect perfection. We think that if we miss one workout or forget to eat healthy for a day, we've already ruined the whole resolution. So, what do? We throw in the towel and say, well, I guess I'll try again next year. But that's not how progress works. The key is consistency, not perfection.
Exactly. The truth is, it's all about the small wins, and they add up over time. But if we're thinking we have to be perfect, it becomes an uphill battle. And you know what I've noticed? Another big issue is the all-or-nothing mentality that we bring to goal setting. It's like, if we miss one day of the gym, we think we've failed the entire goal. But the truth is, you can miss a day, a week, even a month. But if you come back, that's what matters. It's about showing up consistently over time, even when life gets in the way.
Right. And let's not even get started on the timing issue. When people set resolutions in January, it's often because we feel this immense pressure to make changes. But how many times have you started the year with a bang, telling yourself you're going to do everything differently, only to crash and burn when real life hits? The timing can be completely off for many of us. January can feel like a clean slate, but in reality, it might not be the best time to start major changes. People are still recovering from the holiday season, dealing with the post-New Year's slump, and it's hard to keep that energy up for long. If we're not really ready to make those changes, it can feel like we're forcing it, and that's when failure creeps in.
Exactly. The pressure to make drastic changes right at the beginning of the year is real. And the thing is, not everyone is in the right mental or emotional place to take on huge goals. I've learned that the best thing you can do is to prepare yourself mentally for change. So many times we set these massive resolutions because we're caught up in the excitement of a new year, but we haven't taken the time to really think about whether we're ready for those changes. Sometimes it's better to start with smaller, more manageable goals and build up to the bigger ones rather than jumping into the deep end immediately.
And let's talk about accountability for a second, because this is another big reason resolutions fail. So many people go it alone, and we all know how easy it is to talk ourselves out of doing something. Without someone to hold you accountable, whether that's a friend, family member, or even an online community, your chances of slipping off track are way higher. And let's face it, if you don't have any way to measure your progress, it's like you're walking through a fog. You don't see how far you've come, and you're less likely to keep going. That's why having an accountability system is key.
Absolutely. And accountability doesn't just mean someone checking in on you. It could also mean having a clear, visible reminder of your goals. This could be a tracker, an app, or even a journal where you write down your daily progress. These little things keep you on track and help you stay focused. And let's not forget about flexibility. Life happens, right? Unexpected things pop up, and that's part of the journey. But so many people abandon their goals entirely because they've had one setback. If you miss a few workouts, don't throw your whole resolution out the window. Instead, adjust and keep moving forward. Flexibility is just as important as consistency.
Exactly. And one last thing I want to mention is burnout. A lot of people fail because they try to do too much, too soon. Maybe they go from 0 to 100, setting 10 different goals at once, thinking they can conquer everything in a month. And then, boom, overwhelmed. Burnout sets in, and it's game over. When we set unrealistic expectations and overload ourselves with too many changes, we end up exhausted and defeated. So, rather than trying to change everything at once, focus on 1 or 2 achievable goals and give yourself permission to take things slow.
That's such an important point. We think we have to do it all at once, and then we wonder why we feel drained. The truth is, gradual progress is key. It's not about making huge leaps every day. It's about taking small, steady steps. And when we realize that setbacks are part of the process, we can approach our goals with a healthier mindset. Instead of, I'll fail if I don't do this perfectly, we start thinking, this is a journey, and every step forward counts.
All right, so now that we've broken down why so many New Year's resolutions fail, let's flip the script and talk about how to actually make your goals stick. We're diving into the science of goal setting, because believe it or not, there's actually a whole lot of research behind how to set goals that you can not only achieve, but also sustain throughout the year.
Yes. And trust me, when you understand the psychology and science behind goal setting, it becomes so much easier to stick to your resolutions. The first thing I want to mention is something called the SMART Goal Framework. You might have heard of it before, but let's break it down in a way that'll make it clear why it works so well. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And each of those words is key to setting a goal that's not just wishful thinking, but actually something you can accomplish.
Exactly. And the first letter in SMART is S for specific. A lot of times we say things like, I want to lose weight or I want to get fit. But those are vague goals. The brain struggles with vague goals because it doesn't know where to start. But if you say, I want to lose 10 pounds in 3 months by working out 4 times a week and eating healthier, now we've got something specific. Your brain can easily map out what needs to be done.
Right, specificity is key. And then, let's talk about the M in SMART, which is measurable. This is where you track your progress. If you can't measure how far you've come, it's easy to feel like you're not making any progress at all. Take losing 10 pounds, for example. Each week you can check in on your weight, your energy levels, or even how your clothes fit. Measuring small wins along the way keeps your motivation up and gives you that sense of achievement.
And this is huge. People often underestimate how important measurement is. You could be doing all the right things, but if you're not tracking your progress, you might feel like you're stuck. But here's the secret. Small progress is still progress. You don't need to hit your big goal right away. Just keep track of the steps, and you'll see how much closer you get over time.
Exactly. Now, the next letter in the SMART framework is A, for achievable. This is about setting goals that challenge you but don't overwhelm you. Let's say your resolution is to run a marathon this year, but right now you're struggling to jog a mile. If you make that the goal, you're setting yourself up for failure. Instead, make your goal something like, I'm going to run a 5K in 3 months and build up to a marathon over time. It's about creating a progressive plan that allows you to gradually build the habits and skills needed to achieve your larger goal.
Right. And this brings us to something important: challenge and comfort zones. People often think that setting a goal means pushing themselves to the edge of their limits, but you have to balance ambition with realism. You want your goal to stretch you, but it shouldn't feel impossible. And you can always break down that larger goal into smaller, manageable steps that feel achievable along the way.
Exactly. Now, let's move on to the R in SMART, which stands for relevant. This is about making sure that your goal actually matters to you. I've heard so many people say, I want to get fit, because it sounds good, but when you dig deeper, it's not something they're truly passionate about. If your goal is just something you feel like you should do because everyone else is doing it, it's going to be a lot harder to stay motivated. Your goal needs to align with your values and what you truly care about. For instance, if you're a foodie, maybe your goal isn't just to lose weight, but to develop healthier eating habits that support your love for food, but without the guilt or restrictions.
Yes, Sophia, this is so important. When your goal aligns with your deeper values and interests, the motivation to work towards it comes from within, not from external pressures. And when you connect with the why behind your goal, it makes the journey much more enjoyable and sustainable. So, really think about why you want to achieve this goal and how it fits into your life. The clearer the why, the stronger the how.
Exactly. Now, the final letter in SMART is T, for time-bound. And this is a game changer. Setting a deadline for your goal forces your brain to prioritize it. Think about how you feel when you have a deadline for a project at work or school. It pushes you to take action. With a goal that has a time frame, your brain knows when it needs to focus and start working toward it. For instance, if your goal is to lose 10 pounds in 3 months, having that 3-month deadline creates a sense of urgency. It's not just a vague, I want to get healthier someday. It's clear, it's time-sensitive, and it's motivating.
Right. And this ties back into something we talked about earlier: accountability. When you give yourself a specific time frame, you're creating a mini deadline. And guess what? You'll be more likely to stay committed. I've found that the more specific and time-bound a goal is, the more I'm actually able to stick to it.
Exactly. And there's a psychological principle at play here. It's called the Zeigarnik effect, and it's super fascinating. This principle says that your brain tends to remember unfinished tasks more than completed ones. So when you have an unfinished goal with a time frame, your brain constantly reminds you about it, creating an internal push to take action. And this is why deadlines are so powerful. They help create momentum.
Wow, that's so interesting. I didn't even realize that was happening in the background. So, by setting clear, time-bound goals, we're literally making our brains work harder to achieve them. That's the science at work.
Exactly. So, to sum it up, the SMART framework is a powerful way to set goals that actually stick. Make them specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And once you've got that framework down, it's time to think about some practical strategies to make sure you're staying on track. But before we get into that, let's touch on one more thing that's absolutely crucial when it comes to setting goals.
Yes, and that's the power of visualization. Studies have shown that when you visualize your success, you're more likely to achieve it. When you take a moment to picture yourself crossing that finish line, reaching that milestone, or even just getting a little closer to your goal, your brain starts to believe it's possible. And when the brain believes it's possible, it's way more likely to work toward it.
Absolutely. Visualization isn't just about wishing for something. It's about preparing your mind for success and giving yourself a mental roadmap of where you're going. So take some time every day to imagine what success looks like, feel it, see it, and make it a part of your reality.
So, to wrap up this segment, remember, the science of goal setting is all about making your goals clear, achievable, and motivating. With the SMART framework and strategies like visualization, you're setting yourself up for success.
All right. Now that we've explored the science of goal setting and figured out why so many resolutions fall apart, let's focus on the practical steps you can actually take to make sure your goals are achievable and sustainable. This is where the rubber meets the road, folks. It's one thing to know the theory behind goal setting, but it's another thing entirely to put it into practice. The first and most important thing to remember when setting goals is starting small. Now, I know we all love the idea of making huge changes and setting big, bold goals, but the truth is, starting small is one of the most effective strategies you can use. And here's why.
Right. And trust me, I get it. We've all been there, setting goals that feel so big and exciting, only to get overwhelmed by how much we've taken on. I've definitely fallen into that trap before. But starting small helps you focus on one manageable task at a time. When you break your big, intimidating goal into smaller pieces, you give yourself the chance to build momentum. And momentum is what keeps you moving forward. For example, if your big goal is to get healthier, don't jump straight into an intense fitness routine, drastically change your diet, and eliminate all unhealthy habits overnight. That's a surefire way to burn out. Instead, start with small, simple changes. Maybe it's committing to walk for 15 minutes a day or cutting back on sugary snacks by 50%. The goal here is to take small, realistic steps that you can gradually build on as you go.
Exactly. And starting small doesn't just help you stay motivated, it also makes you feel like you're achieving something right from the start. For example, if you set a goal to exercise 3 times a week, the first time you complete that workout, you already feel the win. It's a psychological boost that reinforces your commitment to the goal. And once that becomes a habit, you can increase the intensity or frequency. But the key is that you're laying down a foundation of success, not jumping into something so big that it's hard to sustain.
And that leads me to another critical point: creating a clear plan of action. You see, it's one thing to say, I want to get fit, or I want to read more. But a goal without a plan is just a vague wish. If you're serious about achieving anything, you need to have a concrete plan. What does success look like for you? How are you going to get there? You need to break it down step by step. If your goal is to run a marathon, don't just say, I want to run a marathon by the end of the year. That's far too abstract and doesn't give you a clear path. Instead, break it down. This month, I'll run 5 miles a week. Next month, I'll increase to 10 miles a week. Create a weekly schedule and stick to it. Having a clear roadmap helps you stay focused and prevents you from feeling lost in the process.
That's such a key point. And here's the thing. When you're creating your plan, be specific. The more detailed you can be, the better. For instance, instead of just saying, I'll exercise, Plan out exactly what you'll do, when, and for how long. Are you going to do cardio, strength training, or yoga? Are you going to work out in the morning or evening? Having a clear outline of your plan makes it easier to follow through because you're not left wondering what comes next. A plan isn't just a list of to-dos, it's a step-by-step guide that sets you up for success.
Yes. And once you've got a clear plan in place, the next step is tracking your progress. It might sound a bit tedious, but tracking is absolutely crucial for maintaining motivation. Think about it. If you're not tracking your progress, how do you know if you're moving forward? How do you celebrate the small wins? Tracking gives you visibility on how far you've come and where you need to improve. Whether it's writing in a journal, using an app, or checking things off a list, seeing that progress makes a huge difference. For example, if your goal is to save $1,000 this year and you track every dollar you save, you'll feel motivated to keep going because you'll see the numbers adding up. It's a visual reminder that you're on the right track, and that's key for staying focused.
That's a great example, Adam. And when you track your progress, don't forget to celebrate those small wins. I know it might feel like those tiny milestones are insignificant, but they matter. You've heard the saying, celebrate the journey, right? When you hit a small target, like finishing your first week of workouts or saving your first $100, take a moment to acknowledge it. You don't have to throw a party or go overboard, but simply appreciating your efforts reinforces positive behavior. It keeps you excited about the bigger goal because you're constantly feeling the satisfaction of progress. It's like fueling the fire to keep going.
That's so true. Positive reinforcement is such a powerful tool. The small wins are like little boosts of energy that help you keep going. But there's another step that's equally important: accountability. You've probably heard this before, but it's one of the most effective ways to stay on track. When you have someone to check in with, or even better, when you have a goal buddy, you're much more likely to follow through. And accountability doesn't just mean telling someone you're working on a goal. It means having them actively involved in checking your progress and keeping you accountable. For example, let's say your goal is to work out 3 times a week. Tell a friend about your goal and ask them to text you on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays to make sure you've done it. Having that extra layer of accountability really ups your chances of success.
Exactly. And accountability works on so many levels, whether it's a friend, a family member, or even a support group. You could join an online group where everyone shares their progress and motivates each other. This creates a sense of camaraderie and makes you feel like you're not alone in the journey. Plus, knowing that someone is expecting you to follow through increases your commitment. It's not just about doing it for yourself, it's about showing up for someone else too.
Totally. And here's a tip. Make your accountability check-ins regular. You want to create a habit of checking in with yourself or someone else, so it becomes part of your routine. And this ties into setting realistic deadlines. Deadlines are so important when it comes to goal setting because they give you that sense of urgency and purpose. But it's not enough to just say, I'll be healthier by the end of the year. You need to break it down further. For example, by the end of the first month, I'll have completed 3 fitness classes, or I'll lose 2 pounds by the end of this month. These smaller, more specific deadlines make the goal feel closer and more achievable. And when you hit those deadlines, it's an opportunity to celebrate again.
Exactly. It's about setting smaller checkpoints within your larger goal. But here's the thing. Sometimes life doesn't go as planned. That's where flexibility comes into play. You might miss a workout or get off track for a couple of days. That's totally fine. The important part is not to give up when things don't go perfectly. If you miss a workout, don't just throw in the towel and say, well, I've failed. Be flexible, reassess, and adjust. Maybe you just need to shift your schedule around or change your strategy. Flexibility helps you bounce back when things don't go as planned, and it keeps you moving forward.
And when you have that flexibility, you're also developing a growth mindset. This is one of the most powerful ways to stay resilient. A growth mindset means you believe that your abilities can improve through effort and learning. So, when you hit a setback, instead of thinking, I can't do this, you think, what can I learn from this? You start seeing obstacles as opportunities to learn and grow rather than as failures. This mindset makes it easier to keep going and push through the challenges.
Exactly. When you shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, you're giving yourself permission to fail forward. That means you see each failure as a stepping stone to success. It's a journey, not a straight line, and it's okay to have hiccups along the way. What matters is that you keep moving and keep learning from your experiences.
All right, so to recap, start small, create a clear plan, track your progress, celebrate the small wins, build accountability, set realistic deadlines, stay flexible, and develop a growth mindset. These are the steps that will set you up for success and help you stay on track all year long.
All right, now we're diving deep into two crucial ingredients for achieving your goals: motivation and discipline. Now, motivation is what gets us excited in the beginning. It's that spark that makes us want to take action. But what happens when that initial excitement fades? That's where discipline comes in. It's what keeps you going even when the motivation isn't there. So let's break these down and see how we can use them together to make sure we stay on track throughout the year.
Exactly, Sophia. We all know that feeling of being super motivated to start a new project or goal. It's like you wake up on New Year's Day full of energy and determination. You've got big plans, and you're ready to take on the world. But let's be honest, that initial surge of motivation doesn't always last. Life gets busy, distractions happen, and you might start to feel less excited about your goal. And that's totally normal. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes in waves. But that's why discipline is so important. It's the consistent, everyday action that pushes you forward, even on the days when motivation is nowhere to be found.
Yes, exactly. So, let's start with motivation. What's interesting about motivation is that it often starts with a vision. When you have a clear picture of what you want to achieve, you're more likely to feel motivated to take action. For example, let's say your goal is to get healthier. Visualizing how you'll feel when you're stronger, more energized, or even fitting into those clothes you've been wanting to wear, those are powerful motivators. But motivation isn't just about having a picture in your mind. It's about tapping into the emotions that drive you. Emotions are what fuel motivation.
Exactly, Sophia. Motivation is deeply emotional. And this is where you have to get in touch with the why behind your goal. Why do you want to accomplish it? Is it to feel better about yourself, to increase your confidence, or to achieve something that you've always dreamed of? When you connect your goal to a strong emotional reason, that's when motivation becomes powerful. But here's the thing. Motivation is a bit like a battery. It has a charge, but that charge doesn't last forever. So, when you feel that motivation starting to fade, you need to rely on discipline to keep moving forward.
Yes, and that's where discipline steps in. Discipline is about doing the work even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline means setting aside the excuses and sticking to the plan. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be rigid or inflexible. It's more about creating a structure that helps you stay consistent, even when your motivation isn't there. And I think what trips a lot of people up is that they wait for motivation to strike before they take action. But what if you could develop habits that make discipline automatic?
That's such a great point. And the way to make discipline automatic is by creating routines. When you turn something into a habit, it becomes part of your daily life, and you don't have to think about it too much. For example, if your goal is to exercise every day, it's easy to get caught up in how you feel that day. Do I have the energy? Am I in the mood? But if you make exercise a non-negotiable part of your routine, you don't have to question it. It's like brushing your teeth. You don't need motivation to do it, it's just part of your day. And over time, that habit becomes ingrained, so you just do it, no questions asked.
Exactly, Adam. The more consistent you are, the more automatic your discipline becomes. And I think people often forget that discipline is trained over time. It's not something you're born with. It's a muscle that you build by showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it. And here's the thing. Discipline doesn't mean being perfect. It means being consistent. It's okay if you miss a day or take a break. The key is to get back on track as soon as you can and keep moving forward.
Yes, exactly. And I love what you said about not expecting perfection. People often think that discipline means being flawless or sticking to the plan 100% of the time. But discipline is really about showing up, even when it's tough. So let's say you planned to work out every day, but life got in the way and you missed a few sessions. Discipline isn't about beating yourself up for those missed days. It's about getting back on track and not letting a few slip-ups derail the entire process. We're all human. The goal is progress, not perfection.
100%. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They see one mistake or one setback as a failure and then give up entirely. But setbacks are just part of the process. That's where the power of discipline really comes in. It's what keeps you going even when things don't go perfectly. So when you miss a workout, it's not the end of the world. Just get back in there the next day and keep building that habit. The longer you stay consistent, the easier it becomes.
And I think that's one of the best ways to build self-confidence too. The more you show up, even when it's tough, the more you prove to yourself that you're capable of sticking to your commitments. That's how you build trust with yourself. And when you build that trust, it becomes easier to stick to your goals in the future. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through, and that belief in yourself becomes a powerful motivator in and of itself.
Absolutely. And this is why motivation and discipline go hand in hand. Motivation gets you started, but discipline is what keeps you going. And there's a real magic that happens when you combine both of them. Motivation can get you through the tough days, but discipline helps you stay the course when motivation fades. It's the consistency of showing up every day, even when you're not feeling 100%, that leads to real, lasting progress.
So let's sum it up. Motivation will be your spark, your initial energy, and it will help you get started. But when motivation wanes, and it will, discipline will be your anchor. By creating routines, staying consistent, and not letting setbacks knock you off course, you'll build the momentum needed to reach your goals. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Stay disciplined, and trust that your efforts will pay off over time.
Exactly. And if you can cultivate both motivation and discipline in your life, you're going to be unstoppable. You'll not only achieve your New Year's resolutions, but you'll also develop the strength and mindset to tackle any goal that comes your way in the future. So get clear on your vision, tap into your emotions, build strong habits, and commit to the process. You've got everything you need to succeed. Keep going and keep growing. Now that we've talked about motivation, discipline, and how to achieve our goals, let's focus on an equally important aspect: planning for the future. Setting goals is only the first step. The real work comes when you plan how to make those goals a reality. A lot of people make resolutions but fail to follow through because they don't have a clear plan. So, how can we take our big dreams and break them down into manageable steps? How do we ensure that we stay focused and on track for the long term?
That's a great question, Sophia. The truth is, without a solid plan, it's easy to get lost in the day-to-day and forget about the bigger picture. A lot of people think that planning is just about writing down a list of things to do, but effective planning involves much more than that. It's about creating a roadmap for your future, something that's not just realistic, but adaptable. After all, life is unpredictable, and you need to be able to adjust your plans when things don't go as expected.
Absolutely. And one of the key principles of planning for the future is to make sure you're breaking your goals down into smaller, more actionable steps. Think about it this way. If your goal is to run a marathon, it's overwhelming to just think about running 26 miles. But if you break it down into smaller goals, like running 1 mile today, 2 miles tomorrow, and gradually increasing your distance, that's much more manageable. Not only will you have a clear path forward, But you'll also get to celebrate small wins along the way, which will keep you motivated.
Exactly. And that's where the SMART goal-setting framework comes in. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Let's say your goal is to improve your physical health. Instead of just saying, I want to get healthier, make it specific. I want to run 3 times a week for 30 minutes. Now you can measure your progress because you have clear actions, running 3 times a week. The goal is also achievable because you're setting a reasonable number of sessions per week. It's relevant because it's tied to your health, and it's time-bound because you can evaluate your progress after a month or so. By using SMART goals, you give yourself a framework that makes your plan actionable and trackable.
That's such a great point. It's so much easier to work towards something that's concrete. But there's also another aspect to planning for the future that a lot of people forget about. Flexibility. It's important to have a plan, but it's also important to realize that life will throw curveballs. Sometimes you'll need to adjust your plans. For example, maybe you set a goal to save a certain amount of money every month, but then an unexpected expense comes up. That doesn't mean you've failed. It just means you need to revise your plan. You might adjust your budget or increase your savings goal in the following months to make up for it. Being flexible allows you to keep moving forward without getting discouraged.
Absolutely, Sophia. Flexibility is key. And while it's important to set clear goals and plans, it's also important to check in regularly to see if those plans are still aligned with your values and priorities. Life changes, and so do our circumstances. For instance, if your original plan was to travel abroad for a year, but then you land an amazing job opportunity that requires you to stay, you may need to shift your focus. The key is being open to those shifts and adapting your plan as necessary. Staying flexible doesn't mean abandoning your goals. It means adjusting them to fit new circumstances.
Exactly. And I think the idea of reevaluating your goals is really powerful. It's easy to set a goal and forget about it as life moves on. But if you're constantly evaluating your progress and assessing whether your goals still resonate with you, you'll stay more engaged. You'll be able to catch any changes in your priorities early on and adjust accordingly. I think this makes the entire process less stressful. You're not locked into something forever, and you're always keeping things fresh and relevant.
Right. And let's not forget about the importance of accountability when planning for the future. It's easy to let things slip if you're working in isolation. That's why it's a good idea to have someone, whether it's a friend, family member, or mentor, who can help you stay accountable. When you share your goals with someone else, it creates an external layer of responsibility. You don't want to let them down, so you'll be more likely to follow through on your commitments. Plus, having someone to share your progress with can make the journey more enjoyable and fulfilling.
I love that idea. Accountability partners can also offer valuable feedback, help you stay motivated, and even brainstorm solutions when you face challenges. And this goes hand in hand with celebrating those small wins. When you break down your big goal into smaller steps and start achieving those, don't forget to celebrate. It could be something simple like acknowledging your progress, treating yourself to a small reward, or even just sharing your success with your accountability partner. These celebrations help reinforce the positive behavior, making it easier to stay committed in the long run.
That's such an important part of the process, celebrating those wins. And this is where the concept of momentum comes into play. The more you achieve, the more momentum you build, which makes it easier to keep moving forward. When you see the progress you've made, it's like a snowball effect. You get more energized and motivated to keep going. That's why it's so important to focus on the process, not just the outcome.
Absolutely, Adam. And remember, while you're planning for the future, it's crucial to stay patient. Real progress takes time. It's easy to get discouraged if you don't see immediate results. But staying consistent and sticking to your plan will eventually lead to the success you're aiming for. Trust the process, be flexible, and celebrate every step forward. The future is built on what you do today. Now, let's talk about one of the most crucial aspects of goal achievement: time management. No matter how motivated or disciplined you are, if you don't manage your time effectively, it becomes much harder to make progress toward your goals. Time is a limited resource, and the way you use it can either make or break your ability to reach your objectives. So, in this segment, we'll be diving into some practical strategies to help you manage your time better, stay focused, and ultimately achieve those big goals you've set for yourself.
Exactly, Sophia. Time management is often the one thing that separates people who achieve their goals from those who don't. Think about it. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day, right? But how we use that time is what makes all the difference. You can have the best goals, the most motivation, and the strongest discipline, but if you're not using your time wisely, you're going to struggle to get results. So let's start by talking about some time management techniques that can really move the needle when it comes to productivity.
Absolutely. One of my favorite strategies is the Pomodoro technique. Have you ever heard of it, Adam?
I have, and I absolutely love it. The Pomodoro technique is simple but incredibly effective. It's all about breaking your work into focused intervals, usually 25 minutes of work followed by a 5-minute break. After completing 4 cycles, you take a longer break, like 15 or 30 minutes. The idea behind it is that working in short, focused bursts helps prevent burnout and keeps your brain sharp. Plus, those short breaks allow you to recharge, which makes you more productive in the long run. It's amazing how something so simple can have such a huge impact on focus and productivity.
Exactly. It's all about maintaining that peak focus during the work periods and not burning out. And it's a great way to break down large tasks into manageable chunks. So instead of sitting down and thinking, I have to work for hours on this big project, you just focus on 25 minutes at a time. Those little wins add up quickly, and you're able to track your progress. Plus, the breaks give you something to look forward to, which keeps you going.
Absolutely, Sophia. And for people who are overwhelmed by the idea of time management, it's important to remember that small, consistent steps are more effective than trying to tackle everything all at once. So, speaking of small steps, another strategy I really recommend is time blocking. Have you ever used time blocking to organize your day?
Yes. Time blocking is one of the most powerful strategies for achieving your goals. Essentially, you're setting aside specific blocks of time throughout your day for different tasks. For example, you could time block your morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. to focus on studying or working on a particular project, then time block the afternoon for meetings or personal errands. By scheduling your day like this, you're setting boundaries for your time. You're making sure that you focus on one thing at a time and that you don't get distracted by other tasks. It's about giving each task the attention it deserves without multitasking.
Right. And the beauty of time blocking is that it helps you prioritize your most important tasks. It's easy to fall into the trap of working on things that are urgent but not necessarily important. Time blocking forces you to really focus on what matters most and make sure that those high-priority tasks are given the time and attention they need. And the best part? It helps you create a routine, which makes goal achievement feel more structured and less overwhelming.
Exactly. And when you're blocking your time, one thing that's really important is planning for distractions. Let's face it, life happens. Maybe your phone rings, maybe a friend needs your help, or maybe you just get tired. It's important to factor in buffer time in your schedule for those unexpected interruptions. By allowing a bit of extra time, you're not stressing out if something takes longer than planned, or if you get distracted for a few minutes. This makes your time-blocking strategy much more realistic.
Such a good point. That's one thing a lot of people miss when they time block. They forget that life doesn't always go according to plan. So building in some flexibility is key. Another great strategy to help with time management is the 2-minute rule. Have you heard of this one, Sophia?
I've heard of it, and I think it's brilliant. The 2-minute rule is simple. If a task will take you less than 2 minutes to complete, do it right away. Don't put it off. It could be something like responding to an email, organizing your desk, or making a quick phone call. The idea is that small tasks can pile up and end up being more time-consuming in the long run if you keep putting them off. By knocking them out immediately, you free up your mental space for more important tasks.
Exactly. And I think it's really helpful for those people who feel overwhelmed by a long to-do list. Often, when we see a big list, we tend to avoid starting anything because it feels too much. But by applying the 2-minute rule, you knock out small tasks quickly, and suddenly your to-do list isn't as overwhelming. Plus, it gives you a sense of accomplishment, which boosts motivation.
Right! And it's amazing how those small tasks can add up. Once you start tackling them, you'll realize how much more you can get done, and it doesn't just help with productivity, it also gives you a sense of momentum. Now, for longer tasks or projects, breaking them down into smaller chunks and focusing on one step at a time can make them feel much more manageable. Don't let the size of the task overwhelm you. Focus on just completing the next step, not the entire thing.
Exactly. Breaking down big projects into smaller, more achievable chunks is one of the best ways to avoid procrastination. If you focus on just one part of the project, it's easier to get started, and the progress you make will motivate you to continue. But one last tip I want to add is to always reflect on how you're using your time. At the end of each week, take a few minutes to evaluate your time management. Did you stick to your time blocks? Were you productive? Did you get distracted a lot? Reflecting on your time usage helps you identify patterns and areas for improvement, which allows you to fine-tune your strategy moving forward.
Such an important point, Adam. Time management is a skill that you can continually improve with practice. The more you reflect and adjust, the better you'll become at using your time wisely. So let's recap. Use techniques like the Pomodoro technique to stay focused. Time block your day to prioritize tasks. Apply the 2-minute rule to knock out small tasks. And always reflect on your time management to keep improving. By doing these things, you'll be well on your way to achieving your goals and making the most out of every day.
Absolutely, Sophia. Time management isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent and intentional with how you use your time. When you make the most of your time, you set yourself up for success and bring your goals within reach. So, put these strategies into action and start managing your time like a pro.
Now, let's talk about something that's often overlooked but incredibly powerful when it comes to achieving your goals: self-reflection and journaling. We've discussed strategies for setting goals, staying disciplined, and managing our time. But what about the internal work? How do we keep ourselves motivated and focused on the journey, especially when things get tough? That's where self-reflection and journaling come in.
Exactly, Sophia. Self-reflection is an essential tool for personal growth and goal achievement. It allows you to pause and evaluate where you are, how far you've come, and where you still need to go. When we're busy chasing after goals, it's easy to forget why we started or get lost in the process. That's why taking time to reflect can help you reconnect with your purpose and reassess your progress. Journaling is a perfect way to do that.
Definitely. I know for myself, journaling has been a game changer. It's a way to get my thoughts out of my head and onto paper, which gives me a clearer perspective. It's also a great way to track progress. If I'm feeling stuck or unsure about a goal, reading through past entries helps me see patterns, challenges I've overcome, and areas where I can improve. It's like having a personal roadmap for your growth written by you. And the best part? Journaling can help you process your emotions too, which keeps you mentally and emotionally strong during your journey.
I totally agree, Sophia. And beyond just tracking progress, self-reflection through journaling also helps you stay accountable to yourself. It forces you to slow down and really think about what's working and what's not. For example, when I journal, I often ask myself questions like, what did I do well this week? What could I have done differently? And what's one small change I can make to improve next week? This kind of reflection forces me to take ownership of my actions and encourages me to stay focused on my goals.
That's a great approach, Adam. And I think it's important to remember that journaling doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. Even just 5 minutes a day can make a huge difference. You don't need to write an essay, just jotting down a few thoughts about your day, how you felt about your progress, or what you learned can be incredibly impactful. It's all about consistency, not perfection.
Exactly. It's not about writing a novel. The real power of journaling comes from the habit itself. Over time, you'll start to notice themes in your writing. You might notice that you're struggling with similar challenges, or you may see patterns in your behavior that you weren't aware of before. And that self-awareness can be a game changer. It helps you learn from your experiences and make better decisions moving forward.
And this connects directly to self-compassion. We're often so hard on ourselves when we don't meet our goals. But journaling helps you reflect in a kind, non-judgmental way. It encourages you to recognize that setbacks are part of the process and that it's okay to make mistakes. You can use your journal to explore those setbacks and figure out what went wrong without beating yourself up. In fact, journaling is a way to practice self-compassion, which in turn helps you build resilience and bounce back quicker.
That's such an important point, Sophia. Self-compassion is essential for long-term success. If we're constantly criticizing ourselves, we burn out. But if we can look at setbacks as opportunities to learn and grow, we stay motivated and keep moving forward. Journaling can help you create that healthy, balanced mindset. It's also a safe space for brainstorming new ideas and keeping your creativity flowing. When you're stuck, writing down your thoughts can help you uncover fresh solutions that you may not have thought of otherwise.
Exactly, Adam. And if you're feeling stuck or unsure about where to go next with your goals, journaling can help you dig deeper. Sometimes it's not about figuring out the right path immediately. It's about asking yourself the right questions. For example, what's my true motivation for this goal? Or, how do I want to feel when I achieve this goal? Journaling gives you a chance to uncover your deeper motivations, which can be incredibly powerful when you feel unmotivated or discouraged.
Yes, those deeper motivations are key to staying engaged. Goals that are aligned with your core values are much easier to pursue because they feel meaningful. By regularly reflecting on what really matters to you, journaling helps you stay connected to those deeper motivations and ensures you don't get distracted by things that aren't truly important to you.
And another great benefit of journaling is that it helps you celebrate your progress. We can often overlook how far we've come because we're always looking ahead to the next milestone. But when you reflect on past entries, you'll see how much progress you've made, even in small steps. Celebrating those victories, no matter how small, keeps you motivated and reminds you that you are making progress.
Absolutely. We tend to focus so much on what we haven't accomplished yet that we forget to celebrate what we've already achieved. Taking the time to acknowledge those small wins, whether it's hitting a deadline, sticking to a habit, or overcoming a challenge, reinforces the idea that you're moving in the right direction, and that positive reinforcement keeps the momentum going.
Exactly. And for those who are new to journaling, it can be helpful to start with prompts to get the ball rolling. Some simple prompts could be, what's one thing I learned today? What challenge did I face, and how did I handle it? Or, what's one small thing I can do tomorrow to move closer to my goal? These types of questions help guide your reflection and ensure you're consistently thinking about your progress and growth.
I love those prompts. And it's also worth mentioning that journaling can be a way to explore your goals from different angles. You can write down your frustrations, but also your breakthroughs and moments of clarity. You might surprise yourself with how much insight you gain just from putting your thoughts on paper. Sometimes just writing about your struggles can help you understand the root cause and find a solution.
Definitely. It's a therapeutic process that not only helps with goal achievement, but also promotes overall well-being. And I think one of the best parts of journaling is that it's a personal journey. There's no right or wrong way to do it. The most important thing is that you make it a habit and use it as a tool to grow and learn. It's a safe space where you can be honest with yourself and really dive into what's important to you.
Wow, Sophia. What a journey we've been on today. We've explored so many angles of goal setting and achieving success. From understanding why resolutions fail to the science of goal setting, practical steps, motivation, discipline, time management, and even the vital role of self-reflection and journaling. Each segment has been packed with insights and actionable steps.
Absolutely, Adam. And I hope our listeners feel inspired and empowered to take these strategies and apply them to their own lives. Achieving your goals isn't just about making a list on New Year's Day. It's about setting a solid foundation, staying consistent, and being kind to yourself along the way. Remember, progress over perfection is what truly counts.
That's so true, Sophia. We hope this conversation has given you, our amazing listeners, the tools and mindset to make 2025 your most productive and fulfilling year yet. Whether it's through better time management, journaling, or simply getting enough rest, every step you take brings you closer to your dreams.
And remember, this is your journey. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. Take what resonates with you, experiment, and find what works best for your unique life and goals. And if you ever feel stuck or need a little extra motivation, we're here to keep the conversation going. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Remember, the future is yours to create. Let's make it amazing, together. Thank you.